All right, welcome to your December leadership training. I'm excited. It's almost Christmas, and I wanted to sneak this in. I didn't publicize it ahead of time because I just had to find a time this week to make this work. But I felt like the Lord provided some content for this month for some good training for us. That I hope this video, which I'm intending to be a little bit shorter, so that it's something that you and your leadership teams can actually watch together, either like at a leadership team meeting or at a separate occasion. You could send it to them. So I don't have a whole lot of like updates this month. It's more of I just want to dive into the content so that I can use my 15 minutes here to good effect. So what I felt like the Lord wanted to talk about, or what I felt like He put on my heart to talk about today, is the term or the concept or the strategy of radical hospitality. Radical hospitality. I think we'd all agree that one of the most effective tools, I guess, in our quiver for young adult ministry is being hospitable, being real, being authentic, being a community that when somebody new approaches, they feel welcome, they feel loved, and they feel like they belong. And one of the things that young adults are most sensitive to is kind of a cliquey culture, right? So you've got, if somebody new, they actually have the courage to come to something, and they arrive, and they feel like it's just an in crowd that they don't know anyone, or they know very few people, and everybody seems to know each other and get along great, and they just don't know where their place is. That is a tremendous turnoff for most young adults, and one of the things that I think can be most disruptive in the growth of a chapter. Because what we don't want to have happen is we cast vision all the time for we need to be missionary disciples, right? We need to be going out. We need to be outward focused. Who do you need to invite that isn't here right now? So we cast that vision all the time. Well, what good does it do if once we do that and our young adults actually start to invite people and reach out and look beyond themselves, and yet then they invite people and then they come, but they don't come to an environment that is ready for them. They don't come to a community that embraces them and says, yes, good, we've been waiting. I'm so glad that you're here. Come, let's enter into our life together. So I wanted to just look at radical hospitality from a very practical standpoint. What are like five, you know how I am in my list here, but what are my five very practical tips, tools for creating a culture of radical hospitality? Because I do think that if we can nail this piece, it'll go a long way to the growth of our chapters. All right, so first one. And in each of the chapters that I've gone through our training, know what I mean by this, but define and kind of articulate your wow experiences. Define or articulate your wow experiences. So what I mean by that is look throughout the course, and this is mostly pertaining to disciples nights, but this can also, could be a social event that you're doing, or like for us, like the barn party, or different things that could be happening, or even the discipleship groups. Well, let's just focus on more like big group events. Define those small elements that you want to just do 5-star quality work for. Of course, the whole thing we want to be great, right? We always want to have an expectation of excellence for ourselves. But yet it's unrealistic to think that every disciple night, every month can hit a home run on every single element. So, with that in mind, what are those things that are kind of non-negotiable moments or elements that we want to be a wow? And the way they become a wow experience is by exceeding someone's expectations. So, for instance, maybe check-in, you want the check-in process to be a wow experience. Well, what's the expectation? Most Catholic events, and most especially young adult Catholic events, the check-in probably is a little haphazard. It might be a table with some name tags scattered on it, and maybe somebody's there to take your name and welcome you. Maybe not. There might be like a loose leaf sheet of paper with a hastily written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it says name, email, and phone number across the top. And the idea is like, here, give us your name, email, and phone number. And once somebody checks in, There's there's no kind of direction as to what happens from there. If there's any payment involved, you have to pay with cash because no credit card readers would be available. Those are the expectations. Now, if this was a priority for your leadership team to make it a wow experience, what would it look like? Maybe somebody is not only at the table welcoming people, and maybe you have 2 or 3 people welcoming people and getting people through the checkout process so the line isn't very long, but you actually have some people stationed throughout the line, so as the line grows, people are talking, they're welcoming them and saying, this is what you need to have ready to get to check in. You've already printed out the list of the people who said they're coming, so it's a quick check-in. Yes, I'm here, great. For payments, you get a little Square reader. They cost next to nothing. You plug it into your phone. Now you can pay with credit card and cash. Instead of having a loose leaf sheet of paper where they sign there, you have an iPad or a laptop set up right away so that they can just type in their name, type in their email address, and boom, you've got their information and it looks more professional. Maybe you have a tablecloth over the table. As soon as they're done checking in, there's clear directions as to what they do next. You need to go down the hall to the left, and our people in the room will take care of you from there. Those are just little things, but can go a long way to helping something feel hospitable, feel well run, and an initial wow experience. So I would sit down with your leadership team and look at the entire evening of Disciples Night and break it down into chunks. Check-in, mass, announcements after mass, dinner, announcements before the talk, the live streaming, announcements after the talk, fellowship, all of it. Just look at the whole thing and say, what are the elements that we feel like need to be kind of wow, exceed your expectation level? Maybe it's food. You come to a young adult event, often people would expect maybe pizza, pop, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with pizza and pop. But if there's a way to elevate the level of food so they come away like, man, this was a good meal. Not only was there good fellowship and a good talk, but man, this was a good meal. So you get the idea that look for those wow experiences, define them, articulate them, even describe what it would look like to make it a wow, and then embrace them as a leadership team. So that's the first one. Second one is clear communication. And what I mean by that is communication. Try to shore up the communication process in every element of the event. The marketing the whatever kind of RSVP registration, the information about what is happening, why, who's the speaker, all the different things. The night of, having MCs who can communicate the necessary information clearly and confidently and peacefully is really huge. And I hope you recognize too that these tips are coming out of experience, but they're also coming out of mistakes we've made. So when I say like wow experience and I define our check-in process, I'm like even in the back of my head, I'm like, man, we need to do more of that. Or like this clear communication. It's been a kind of a rough go for communication with us recently, so we need to shore this up so that we can support you in your ability to communicate clearly to your people. But the focus I want on communication here for Radical Hospitality is mostly with the MCs. Communication during the event. And one of the things that you should work with your MCs on is pick MCs who actually have a talent for it, not just who want to. Okay, because just because somebody wants to stand in front of everybody and lead them through the evening doesn't mean they really have the skill set to do it. And that's just a reality. 2, make sure they know what they're supposed to be saying and they have it in a written form so that they can refer to it. I've seen it time and time again where an MC's like, oh yeah, I got this, I'll remember. And then they get up there and they're in front of everybody and something starts to happen and next thing you know, they have completely forgotten the one announcement that you wanted them to make. Okay, so if they can have a written form ahead of time so they can review it, but then they can reference it while they're speaking is huge. And then thirdly, that they approach emceeing not as a kind of something they're doing to people, as in like it's a mistake that they have to MC or that they're like putting people off by the fact that they have to make announcements and shepherd the evening. The opposite is true. It's like we are serving you. We're allowing you, the participant, to sit back, relax, enjoy the evening. Don't worry about the time. Don't worry about what's coming next because we are taking care of you. We know what's going on and we're confident in it and we can shepherd you through the evening. And this is where it's hospitable because there's few things more uncomfortable than going to an event and feeling embarrassed for whoever's leading it. or like they clearly are getting embarrassed by what they're saying, or they're rushing their announcements, or they can't remember what to say, or they start to say kind of awkward things. And then you as a participant, especially a new participant who doesn't necessarily have a relationship with the person up who's talking, it's going to make it uncomfortable for them. Okay, so define your wow experience. Clear communication. 3, simple one. Smile. Smiling faces. Help your leadership team smile. Express the joy of the Lord. I know this seems like radically obvious, but that's okay. It's okay to talk about the obvious things sometimes, because those are the things we often forget. To just be able to, when you greet somebody new, especially in that check-in process, or especially if you're a welcomer, or you're the bartender, or the whoever, to just have a smile on your face. One of the things that is most characteristic, or should be most characteristic, of Christians is joy. Not fake joy, not even kind of like a fake happiness, but a deep-seated knowledge of who we are, what we're made for, where we're going, who holds our life. And that knowledge, that comes with a peace that passes understanding, and it leads to a joy for us to be able to enter into situations and our face reflect what's going on in our heart. And so if your leadership team is under the stress of putting on this event, and they're worried about this and they're worried about that, and they're running all over the place, and it's almost like they don't have time to be joyful for what the Lord is doing, then you probably need to pray more as a leadership team so that people feel more peaceful about the event. 2, you need to probably look for more leaders so you can diversify the workload. And 3rd, you just need to practice it in the moment, to call each other on. Hey, I know this is okay. This is good. We can take care of this. Now let's smile. Let's be joyful. Let's approach this the way that the Lord is calling us to. Okay. So define your wow experiences, clear communication, smiling faces. Number 4, create a culture of questions. Create a culture of questions. Now, what does that mean? A culture of questions refers to really kind of like a conversation technique of helping people dive into a conversation, kind of go deeper in relationship through conversation, through a focus on questions that seek to understand who the person is, what makes them tick, why they're there, all that. So if the leadership team embraces this mentality to say that our first instinct when we see somebody new is to ask simple, loving, but open-ended questions to get them talking, to help them feel comfortable, that's really good. And because then what's going to happen is the more the leadership team models this approach, and the people who come on a regular basis model this approach, when somebody new comes into an environment, they're going to be amazed at how interested people are in their life. And not in like a creepy way, not in a over-the-top way, but just in a, we are a community that wants to learn about each other. We're a community that wants to be open with each other and seek to understand, and without kind of a judgmental mentality. It's not so like when you ask a question, one of the best responses to whatever they say is a follow-up question. Wow, that's really interesting. Can you help me understand more about that? Like one of the simplest things, is like when you ask somebody like, so what do you do for work? Or what do you do with your free time or whatever? And they say, well, I'm a engineer with X, Y, and Z, and this is what I'm working on. Awesome. Do you like it? Oh yeah, it's pretty good. Blah blah blah. Awesome. Honestly, I don't quite understand. I'm a former gym teacher. I work now with IDNA 16. I don't really understand engineering. Can you help me understand, like, what exactly do you do? Like, what does your day look like? Next thing you know, 8 minutes into the conversation, you've learned so much about that person, and you've hardly said anything, and yet they feel like, oh man, this person really wants to get to know me, and that's a huge part of having a culture of radical hospitality. So, define your wow experience: clear communication, smiling faces, and a culture of questions. That's 4. And number 5, embrace the awkward. In order to be hospitable, in order to create a radical, hospitable environment, you have to be willing to be a little uncomfortable and to just kind of sink your teeth into it and be like, yeah, we are not intimidated by awkward. We are not intimidated by silence in a conversation. We are not intimidated by anybody who comes to be with us. That when they come, they're going to be loved. no matter how much their physical appearance or their mental state or their religious views or their political views or whatever might be totally against who we are, because we are disciples of the Lord, because He reigns in our hearts, and because He loves them as much as He loves us, we're going to embrace the awkward. We're going to sink our teeth into it, and we're going to be okay with it. And so for the leadership team especially, to operate through that, they're just kind of to be able to have an environment where things could go a little funky, or somebody could say something a little strange, or a different person than you're expecting shows up. You invited the barista at your coffee shop to come, never really expecting that he'd come, and then he shows up. Instead of feeling like uncomfortable about it, but just like, yes, all right, the Lord is moving, and to be peaceful and joyful in the midst of it, and just embrace those awkward moments and laugh about it. And it kind of tied into embracing the awkward is just embrace the humor that comes through humanity trying to do life together. How's that for a phrase? Like, anytime human beings interact with each other, there's room for all sorts of different emotions, all sorts of different situations, all sorts of different things, all over the place. And if at our Disciples Nights and the ID 916 sponsored events, people can come and just be like, yeah, this might be kind of, they're going to laugh at themselves, and they're going to enjoy a hospitable, loving environment. Yeah, that could be a little uncomfortable at times, but praise God, we're together, and He's drawn us together. Okay, so quick recap. Define your wow experience, articulate it, embrace it. Clear communication before, during, and after the event. Smile. Smiling faces are huge for hospitality. Culture of questions. When you meet somebody, open-ended questions. Seek to understand, embrace a culture of that, and finally, wrap your arms around that awkward and just say, yes, we're not intimidated by it. We're okay with it. All right, that's all the time we have for today. I will do another one of these in January, and I will publicize that one so that we can actually do it live and that you can participate live. This is the newest iteration of the technology. I hope it worked well. There's another source that I'm looking at that maybe would allow us to broadcast live and you to actually ask questions live, so that we could kind of have a little bit more give and take. All right. Have a very Merry Christmas. Let's try it again. Have a very Merry Christmas with your friends and family. May the Lord bless you during this season. May the Lord bless our chapters, and really look forward to hearing how it goes in January with Tom and Jeannie Stevenson. I think they're going to give a great talk on marriage, and it should be fun. All right, God bless you. Bye.